Welcome to the second episode of Stories My Friends Tell, an amateur first-person true storytelling podcast. My name is Ben. With me on this episode are three of my very good friends, Aliza Small, Andrea Simons, and Ceili Hale. How are you three doing?
Good.
Great. I am so excited to have you three. These are some of my very good friends. Longtime listeners of the show will know that I'm not a big fan of small talk. You know, I like to cut to the chase. With that, let's just get to our first story, you know? Our first storyteller is going to be Andrea Simons. Andrea is a comedian who can be seen on Refinery 29 and at various sketch and improv events around the city. Andrea, so for the question of the day, I came up with, why is there something instead of nothing?
Why is there something instead of nothing? Well, I think that there is always something to eat, and that is not nothing.
Great. Thank you for that answer. All right, without further ado, here's Andrea's story.
Okay, cool. So my story is about a woman in crisis, and that woman is me. And so I'm often in like states of crisis in my life. I'm kind of dramatic, and when I do enter a state of crisis, I often do something to try and sort of like alter my life, but not really have to actually make any like huge changes. So shortly after I moved to New York, I was just like overwhelmed and alone in New York and like living in New York and in a state of crisis. And so I decided that I needed to introduce yoga into my life, and that was like a thing that needed to happen now. And so one morning when I was like very distraught and like needed a change, needed to be a yogi, I looked up this affordable yoga studio near my apartment that I'd never gone to before, and the only class they had that day that worked with my schedule was this 10:30 a.m. prenatal yoga class. And so I was in a state where I was like, well, this is what needs to happen. Like, this needs to happen in my life. I need to go to the yoga class, and I don't care if it's prenatal. Like, this is where I need to be. This is where I'm meant to be right now. And so I like marched to the yoga class and decided, like, in my head, I was like, people go to prenatal yoga class even if they're not pregnant. Like, it's yoga, it's inclusive. And so I got there, and everybody was, first of all, pregnant, and second of all, they were very pregnant. Like, they were, this is a pregnancy class. And so I got in, and the teacher, kind of who's signing everyone in, asked me how far along I was, because that's a question that pregnant women get asked. And so I just said 5 weeks without thinking about like what that truly meant. And so I was like, cool. I said a number, and now I'm going to go to the class, and I'm not going to talk to anyone. I'm just going to go to the class, and I'm going to feel great because like I'm going to be introducing yoga to my life. So I go to the back of the class, like trying to be discreet. I'm a little nervous because everyone there is very pregnant, and I'm not pregnant, and I don't look pregnant. And so then the teacher just tells everyone in the class that we're all going to go around and introduce ourselves and tell everyone how far along we are. So I'm like freaking out, like one by one, these women are going around, and I come to realize that not only are they all pregnant, but they all know each other, they're friends. This isn't just a yoga class, it's like sort of a support group in that like they're friends, and they are not just telling each other how far along they are, they're telling each other like what's going wrong or what's feeling good or like what's stressful. They're like giving each other like tips, and like they're really helping each other through these like moments of like shared experience of being pregnant. And so I need to figure out what my situation is, so I couldn't back out. I couldn't say I wasn't pregnant. This was like not a situation where I could like squirm out of it, and I decided that I still was like very firm in my belief that like I was meant to be here. I need yoga right now. So it got to me, and I was like, hi, my name is Andrea, and I'm 5 weeks, because I'd already told her I was 5 weeks, so I had to like stick to that number. And I was like, and I don't have much to report. And they like sort of giggled, and it was kind of awkward, and then we moved on. And then this other woman who didn't look that pregnant said she was 11 weeks. And I was like, damn it. Like, I should have said any number other than 5. Because do people even know that they're pregnant when they're 5 weeks? But anyway, so I just like moved on. I was like, there's nothing I can do. But so the class goes on, and I'm convinced that they all know that I'm lying and that I'm usurping their class for like some like ulterior motive. And so the class goes on, and I'm like starting to build my backstory for when I get interviewed, or like when they start like telling me like, we know you're not really pregnant, like what's going on, why are you here? And so I'm like kind of like, you know, I don't have a ring, like do I have a boyfriend, do I have a husband, like was this a one night stand, like what's going on, like why don't I have a ring, like in my real life too, why don't I but anyway, so then for part of the class I had to sit out because I was a first trimester mom, and first trimester moms can't do like certain ab exercises, and I was just like, oh my god, like I was getting more attention than I wanted in this class. And so then also what I realized during the class was like, this is like a nice studio, like I shouldn't be in this prenatal class, but like I would like to come back to this studio. So like this is bad because I don't want this teacher to remember who I am. And so the class finally ends, and I'm just like feeling the stress of having lived this double life. And then I try to leave. I'm like trying to leave the class, and then the teacher is like, guys, let's take a group photo. We need to take a group photo. It'd be so nice because like every week we can take a group photo, and you know we can see how we're all changing. And I was like, I cannot have evidence that I was here. I cannot have evidence that I was here. So I like ran out of the class, and I can only like imagine that they were like, it probably seemed like I was upset. And so I like to think that like it kind of helped build my backstory of like, maybe I was like testing to see whether I was ready to be a mom in this class, and the answer was no. And so then I like ran straight to the abortion clinic and just like fixed it, or something else. So basically I left the class, and I was thinking like, okay, I want to go back to this class, but I don't want this woman to know who I am, so like maybe I can just avoid her classes for a while, and you know, she'll forget. And so the next day I tried to go to a different class that she was not teaching, and as I'm walking into the studio, she walks out of the studio. Not only do we pass each other, but she recognizes me right away, pulls me aside, and says like, hi, you were in my class yesterday, right? And so like in that moment I had a decision to make. I was like, I can just say, you know what, like, yeah, but I'm sorry, I'm not pregnant, I'm sorry, I don't know I'm sorry. But then I was like, yogis don't lie, and if she knows that I'm a dishonest person, like I can't be a yogi, and I need to have yoga in my life, because that was something that I had decided the day before when I was in crisis. And so again, like just to remind you, the whole reason that I was going to this class was to calm down, and instead I got a whole other life, like a double life that I had to like think about and create and like work into and stress about during and after the class. And so I told her like, yeah, I was in the class. And then she was like, great. Like, remember when you do plank? Like, da-da-da-da-da. Like, she's telling me all these, like, tips for my pregnant body for this regular class. So I was like, cool. So I just, like, took a step farther into the double life. And so then, basically, I've avoided her since. And it's been fine. I think I don't know if she would recognize me now. But the whole experience has given me like a greater appreciation for people in the witness protection program, or people who like cheat on their spouses and have to make up all these like intricate stories, because it's really stressful. And I mean, obviously I can have a double life. I'm still living it. I haven't admitted to her anything. I like did think of something if I ever did have to see her again. I was gonna say like, you know what, it didn't work out. So that she couldn't really, like, who knows what that means? Maybe it was a miscarriage. Maybe it was not. You can't really, like, pry, because I, for some reason, was convinced that, like, all these people were going to come up to me and be like, you're not pregnant. Why aren't you pregnant? So, yeah. The point is, if you're living a double life, I feel your pain. That's it.
Wow. How long did you keep going to the studio? Do you still go?
I went the other day, but I went semi-regularly for like a few weeks. And I've been meaning to go, but I've never had a class with her since. I always check the schedule. But I don't know. Yeah, I still go sometimes.
All right, moving along. Our next storyteller is going to be Aliza Small. Aliza is a recent New York transplant. She studied at Second City in Chicago and has performed at various schools and venues around Boston, like Improv Boston and the Comedy Studio. Aliza, question of the day. Why do you think there's something instead of nothing?
Oof.
If you believe that there is something instead of nothing.
I don't know. Do any of us really know that there's anything?
Good answer. Good answer. All right, Aliza, tell the story.
All right. Most of my stories and memories are from when I was really young, so this is a story of my kindergarten self. And to paint you a picture of who I was in kindergarten, I had a severe bowl cut with blunt bangs, straight across blunt bangs, bowl cut, like neon pink leggings, Timberland boots. I was a very early appropriator, and like velvet floral dresses and loud yelling. I was a handful. So I was the kind of kid that teachers either loved for all of the adorable, precocious things that I said, or hated for all of the rude, adorable, precocious things that I said. I was a handful, and my kindergarten teacher was in the latter group of hating me for just being a little a loudmouth. I was a troublemaker. Not really a shithead, but just a slight troublemaker. At Solomon Schechter Day School in Skokie, Illinois, there were two Mrs. Cones who were kindergarten teachers, both shriveled old women, but one was 6 feet tall and shriveled, and the other was 5 feet tall and shriveled. So they were the tall Mrs. Cone and the short Mrs. Cone. Tall Mrs. Cone was a bitch. She was my teacher. Short Mrs. Cone, I hear, was a lovely lady. She was not my teacher. Tall Mrs. Cone did not like the fact that I refused to sit with my legs crossed quietly at story time. I would not nap during nap time. I spoke out of turn. I made jokes. I just was a proper lady's worst nightmare. And she really just did not vibe with me, to say the least. And she's the type of teacher who had favorites, and she basically created a clique. She named her favorites My Three Girls. So when she would call up, when she would like give, we didn't have paper, so I don't know, drawings. When she would give drawings back or just hand anything out, she would call everyone up individually, except for at the end she would like sigh misty-eyed and go, My Three Girls. And then these three little goody two-shoes girls would go up and receive their things and sit back in a circle on the carpet, and my delinquent peers and I would just feel utterly neglected. And there was another kid in the class who was delinquenty, but not my friend. His name was Richie, short for Richard. Richie was a ham sandwich bringer to Solomon Schechter Day School, a kosher Jewish day school in suburban Chicago. Richie is the kind of kid who brought a ham sandwich just to put it in other kids' faces and be like, it's ham. Ooh, ham. And at the time, having been raised in a very insular Jewish bubble, and I was 6, having a ham sandwich was like spray painting a swastika on your nap mat. Those were like equal levels of blasphemy to me. So this kid, and he was also just kind of a shithead. He was like a rude little kindergartner. So Richie one day after school, when we were in the parking lot waiting for carpool, came up to me and got in my face and said, "Bye, I hope you die." And I was just and then ran away and into the arms of his doting mother. And so I couldn't even run after him and be like, "Hey, hang on." And that went on for weeks, if not months. Every day after school, Richie would get in my face and say, "Bye, I hope you die." Which in retrospect is a logical comment, like mortality, that thank you. If you had wished immortality upon me, that would be much worse, because then I'd have to watch all my friends die. Anyway, this went on for a long time, and I didn't really know what to do. But one day, at the end of Tefillah, which is every morning we did prayers at my school from K through 12, at the end, when I was walking out of the corner of my eye, I saw Richie sitting on one of the risers, one of the benches, and the quick thought in my mind was, okay, like, I'll give him a taste of his own medicine, like, he's gonna see how stupid it sounds to just say, "Bye, I hope you die," to someone. And so as I'm leaving, I very quickly turn and go, "Bye, I hope you die." What I had not taken into account is that Richie had led prayers that day. So he was sitting on his grandma's lap when I said that to him. And I hear, "What kind of person are you?" And that's when I realized that he was sitting on his grandmother's lap. I was like, "Oh God." I ran out of the Makom Tefillah, which is Hebrew for place of worship. I ran back to the classroom, sort of sat down at the table and began like furiously playing with marbles or crayons or something, trying to make myself look inconspicuous. About 10 minutes later, the whole class is back in the classroom. Everyone's doing their thing, and in the doorway, a figure appears, points straight at me and goes, "That's the one!" And Richie's grandmother has appeared in the door of our classroom to find the culprit, the verbal abuser of her darling grandson. And this just made tall Mrs. Cone happy as a goddamn clam, because one of her least favorite students has committed a crime that was witnessed by a fellow haggard old lady. And there is nothing that haggard old ladies like more than teaming up. So I was dragged out of the classroom by my metaphorical earlobe. There was no physical abuse involved, but it was, if you can imagine it, just imagine that I was being dragged by my earlobe, like it was Victorian England or something. And they take me into the hallway, and I have this really clear memory of just the two like looming figures over me, both yelling at me at the same time about what a horrible, despicable monster I was. And in my mind, I was like, "But Richie, ham sandwich, swastika, he's the bad one. I'm the good one, Mom!" And I just probably started bawling. I don't know. The rest of elementary school was a trying time in terms of getting my bearings on how to deal with people who were mean to me, because I didn't know what to do, because the first time I tried standing up for myself ended in utter shame and the bad guy winning. And Richie brought ham sandwiches for the rest of his elementary school career, which was until the end of the year because he transferred after kindergarten. The end.
I don't know if you've realized this. Richie definitely had a big old crush on you.
Oh.
He definitely liked you a lot, and so he wanted you to die.
Oh.
So no one else could have
could have me. And then he was going to kill himself and we could be together in heaven. Right. Was that it?
Yeah, that was the rest of the note that I wrote down.
That was the rest of the note you wrote down?
All right. Moving on to the final storyteller of the evening, the lovely Ceili Hale. Ceili is a comedian and student at Tufts University, where she performs with 4 different comedy groups. Major and decided the Institute, Tufts Stand-Up Collective, and Tufts Funny Ladies. Ceili, I gotta ask you, why do you think that there's something instead of nothing?
Because that's the way our Savior, Lord Jesus Christ, designed it.
Perfect. Ceili, take us away.
Alright, this one is about the second time I almost died at the hands of a neo-Nazi. Not Richie. different neo-Nazi, but here we go. Spring break of my freshman year in college, 2014. I'd had like a pretty rough semester. I just wanted to go home and like have a relaxing time, just mostly like sleep, hang out with my cat, you know, catch up on some Gilmore Girls. And halfway into the week, on a Thursday, I got an urgent phone call from this girl, Abby, who I had only met one other time because we had a mutual friend, Haley Miller, and we met at this party the past Christmas where they told me that they had both started doing meth recreationally, which now I realize is not a thing, recreational meth. Anyway, so she calls me, haven't spoken to her in like 4 months, and she goes, I have a mission for us. And I was like, all right, fuck it, I'm in. Like, I've only been sitting here like in my underwear eating Lunchables, like, let's fucking do it. So we decided to meet up the next day and discuss. So the next day is Friday, we get a cup of coffee, and I learn at the coffee shop that Abby has moved into a new house that she told me she paid for by cleaning people's houses naked from Craigslist. But I later found out she actually paid for it because she was a meth dealer and only did the cleaning naked houses on the side. So anyway, we get right down to the mission. She tells me, we have to save Haley Miller. I was like, what the fuck? So Haley Miller is apparently locked up in her house for a couple months now. Half of the reason stems from the probation that she's on from something that happened on my 18th birthday party, which is a different story. And half of the reason is she was grounded because her mom caught her trying to sneak out to go hang out with Abby and supposedly probably do more meth. And before I continue, her mom, she has a mom and a brother that she's been locked up in this house with. And her mom is fucking crazy. First of all, she really, 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 really likes Duck Dynasty. And second of all, she's just like, she is a bitch. And her brother had recently gotten out of jail for 10 years for aggravated assault, which is actually attempted murder, but we don't have that charge in Mississippi.
Oh my god! Oh my god!
And he also was supplying Haley with the meth. So she was stuck up with her meth dealing Aryan Brotherhood brother and her mom. So we obviously have to get her the hell out of there. It's her 18th birthday the next day, Saturday, and she won't be legally obligated to live there anymore if we can just get her out, like while her mom and her brother are away. But her mom has taken her cell phone. So we are left with one option, which is to go to Taco Bell, get a cheesy gordita, get a cheesy gordita crunch, and put a note in it describing. This is some real spy shit. We wrote a note. And we were like, Haley, be ready at noon tomorrow. We're gonna come get you. Like, pack a bag, get all your stuff ready, and make sure your mom is out of the house. We can deal with your brother later. So we dropped it off at her house saying it was a birthday present, and we get a call the next day. Apparently her mom is at her boyfriend's house, and Haley knew where her phone was the whole time, in her mom's drawer. So good job, Charlotte Ray, on that one. So she was like, okay, my mom's out, now we just have to get my brother out and we're all clear. So Abby and I go to the house. We bring like a bunch of board games to make it look like we were just trying to have a chill day with Haley. And it turns out we didn't really have to do much to convince her brother to leave, because right when we got there, he was like, you know what, I have to go pick up a machete. So we were like, oh, cool. At the time, we didn't really think about the implications of him having a machete, but we just went with it, and we were like, okay, great. So that buys us some time to get Haley out of the house. So we frantically go, grab all these piles of clothes, take them to the car, and we're in her house. It's the last little bit of clothes that we have to get to bring her. And we hear a truck parked in the driveway. We hear the exhaust turn off. We hear the key coming out of the keyhole. And we hear some slow steps up the front porch. And I fucking lost it. I was just freaking out. I was so scared. And Haley bolts out of the room. We don't know where she went. Abby and I are just there, holding piles of clothes in her room. if there's a long hallway to get to her room, and we hear her brother walking. He's like, Haley, where are you? Haley. And he comes in the room, sees us there, and he doesn't have a machete, luckily. He just has a 6-inch knife. And he tells us that what he had actually done was just go to the edge of their property and watch us move all this stuff. He calls us liars, bitches, thieves. And then Abby tries to run out of the door, and he almost stabs her. And I was trying to grab her, and he, like, threatens me. And I was like, all right, I'm just going to stay here. And he locked the door, told us not to leave. And he called Charlotte. And when she came, they met in the living room with the door locked. They met in the living room and tried to look for Haley. And then Charlotte Ray comes in the room and starts beating the shit out of Abby. And I knew I was next. She was like, I could kill you 2 girls in my house right now and no one would say shit. And I was like, well, I beg to differ because my dad would probably say something. But anyway, she was like, and so, whew. Then, right as she like gets off of Abby, making her way towards me, we hear 3 knocks on the door. Police, open up! Apparently Abby had called 911 while Charlotte and Nick were off looking for Haley, and while I was just standing there like a dumbass, not knowing what to do, just scared out of my mind. And so we all get let out in handcuffs and questioned. Abby's bawling. I'm still just shocked. And, just to go from like a relaxing spring break to this was not really what I had in mind. So anyway, we get let out. Charlotte and Nick, they're like, we got to take them down to the station. Like, we've been looking for Nick for a couple months now, and Charlotte just like beat the shit out of a 17-year-old. And they find Haley after about 15 minutes in her mom's box spring of the mattress. And we're just all sitting there. It's kind of like Spring Breakers, but instead of James Franco, it's a meth head with a couple swastika tattoos. So the cops were like, okay, y'all can go, get whatever you need, and just get out of here. Like you're not going to go down to the station or anything. So we go, and we have to walk through Charlotte Ray and Nick to get back to the house. They're just fuming. Ooh. Haley's grandma's there at this point. She lived across the street, and she looks me in the eye and goes, you bitch. And I was like, she's a 90-year-old woman. That was honestly the worst part of my day. Getting called a bitch by a 90-year-old woman. I was like, oh, fuck. So anyway, we get to stuff halfway down the driveway. We get stopped by the cops again. Haley and Abby have to go to the station because they found out about their parole. So I'm alone, driving 45 minutes home with all of Haley's stuff in my car. I don't know how I'm going to explain this to my parents. I have to go eat for my grandpa's birthday dinner that night at El Patrio. So I was like, you know what? I'm just going to throw all this off the bridge. But I didn't, because about 30 minutes into the drive, a phone rings. My phone rings. And I didn't recognize the number, but it's Haley. She asked if I could pick them up at the courthouse because they have been let off, and now Haley is Abby's legal guardian. Abby is Haley's legal guardian, which doesn't really make sense because they're both addicted to meth, but whatever. I didn't get into that. I was just like, fuck yeah. And Haley tells me that the phone's on speakerphone, and the judge just heard that, and I was so embarrassed. Anyway, so I go pick them up at the courthouse. We go to Taco Bell, and then we unpack at Abby's house, and everyone lived happily ever after.
Oh, my God.
Wow.
True Mississippi tale.
Tale. I have a million things I could say, but I think they're all better left unsaid. Does anyone have anything to say about that?
Jesus Christ, Haley.
Wow.
He's crazy.
Well, that's all the time we have for Stories My Friends Tell. I want to thank again Andrea Simons, Aliza Small, and Ceili Hale. Those were all unbelievable stories, all crazier than the last, certainly. Wow. All right. Bye. Ba 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 da ba da ba da ba da 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 da.